if you had the choice to eat between a packet of these and some of these, which one would you take? Would you eat the content in here, or would you eat the content in here? Okay, so here we've got some nice quality street. I bet you had plenty of these around Christmas time. And here we've got some carrots, some vegetables. Which one would you take? The likely answer amongst the greater good would be the chocolates, one would think. If you said the carrots, then you're probably making it up. I know what my choice would be in a normal course of the day, yet in saying that, most people are going to be geared towards eating the processed chocolates. Now, the reason I bring it up is tonight's seminar is really, really powerful. Look at the psychology of eating, the psychological aspect of eating. We're not going to focus too much on the diet, because we know diets don't work. Just the word diet suggests that it's not going to work or go too far. The key is to eat a sustainable eating plan, strategy, geared towards a lifestyle that you enjoy, and it's no stretch, so you can carry on doing it over the course of time. Before we begin, I want to share with you a very powerful story of someone I worked with a while ago. Now, I work with people in the field of weight, getting into great shape for many, many years, as well as athletes and sports people and business people and all sorts really. I'm going to really focus on getting in great shape. One story stays to mind, and I'm going to tell you why it's a powerful story. Years ago, I was approached by the BBC Radio, and they asked me if I would work with someone and help her lose weight. And I thought, yeah, definitely that's what I do. They said, could you use psychological strategies as well as physical strategies to help this woman lose weight? Well, it's pretty easy. I've done it over many years. I can't see any issues with that. I really enjoy helping people. One of my drivers in doing what I do is to help people. I really enjoy helping people. So what was quite interesting in this particular situation was that when I first met the woman, she was in her mid-60s, which was fine. She said to me that she was told she couldn't lose the weight. Allegedly, what she told me. So the GP had told her she had a thyroid condition. That's what she told me. I don't know if that was the case or not. I'm not medically qualified to comment on that, but she told me that. So I thought, well, it's going to be a challenge. Yet in saying that, all we can do is give it a go. And like all things, you can set a goal. There's never a guarantee you're going to achieve your goal. Yet in saying that, I'm a big believer that we're old enough to be accountable. If we don't achieve our goal, we aim for the stars underneath there, but at least we give it a go. Yet, when we sat down and set some goals, the target she had in mind to be, the weight-wise, it wasn't really going to lose too much weight. I think it was about 2 stone on the grand scheme of things at that period of time. It was quite ironic, really, that on our journey, a woman in her mid-60s, moving towards retirement, on her own, she told me she was feeling lonely and wasn't socialising, and the impact that not being in great shape can have psychologically can be really damaging in more ways than one. And she's kind of become reclusive to a certain extent. Now, we set a goal, set a target. We worked towards that target, and I'd used some psychological strategies to underpin the physical training to achieve that. She would go on to achieve the target we set weight-wise, but more significantly, what she would do is transform her whole life. Her whole life was transformed. What I mean by that, as a result of setting that target to be at that weight, she went out with friends, socialised, booked a holiday for the first time in many, many years. She had a phobia of swimming. For 56 years since been in the swimming pool. We did a strategy for her to overcome that as well. She would go walking. She'd do her swimming every week, having overcome the phobia of swimming. So she achieved a lot more than just the actual weight itself. After a few months, we did a show to surmise what she'd achieved, and we had a general conversation. And it appeared to me it wasn't necessarily just about the weight. It was the knock-on effect, the domino effect. And the reason I talk about that story, of all the people I've worked with over many, many years, the relationship I built with Margaret at the time, those years ago, was quite phenomenal, because we'd meet up every other week and do some psychological strategies and give us advice, the sort of training you could do. But the relationship we built up, really, to see someone transform their life to that extent gave me great satisfaction and pleasure to know, you know what, fantastic. And if you're a coach and you're watching this now, you'll know what I mean. If you're not a coach or a trainer or whatever, you'll know what I mean if you've helped anyone achieve a certain target, you've played a small part in doing that. It was a phenomenal achievement, and it showed that also, if it was the case and she was told she couldn't lose weight for one reason or the other, that people aren't always right. No matter who they are, no one has a mortgage on all the knowledge in the world. I say, have a go and see what happens. Obviously, the condition is going to cause you damage or ill health, then fair enough. Yet in saying that, I say, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I've studied thousands of people over many, many years, success, and I've studied people who've managed to lose weight and maintain that weight and stay at the desired weight, and what they did psychologically, physically, lifestyle-wise. And I've put together a series of techniques I want to share with you tonight. I want to share some tools and techniques. I'm passionate about this process. If you're a coach, you're a trainer, a gym instructor, then you'll have a lot of tools to use with your clients. If you're just someone who wants to work for themselves, then you'll have some powerful tools and techniques you use. The formula for losing weight is pretty simple, really. Calories in, calories out. Now, I don't want to come across as being patronizing or sarcastic, yet in saying, I'm sure you've always heard it before, if you eat more calories than you burn, you're going to put weight on. And that's the long and short of it. Some people have debated that. As of recent, I've heard various debates about how that works. Yet in saying that, you think about times that you've been at your best shape. We might be in your best shape now, and think about what you ate, and how often you ate, and how often you exercised. And you'll notice there's a bit of a trend there, okay? With the exception of when you're very, very young and you can literally metabolically eat what you want and you're running around 10 hours a day. That's a different story altogether. Yet calories in, calories out. I'm not going to go into too much detail with calories because I've done DVDs on this subject before, and they're there if you want to watch them. You can email me. I'm going to have the email information on calories and the way it works and energy consumption. Yet in saying that, what I'd like to just share very briefly is exercise. Whilst it has a lot of benefits, and you probably started exercising in the new year, it's quite minimal in the grand scheme of losing weight. Now, before the gym trainers and instructors start going, Jim, what are you talking about? Exercise is great. All I'm saying is that as good as exercise is for your health benefits, it lowers your heart rate, it helps you in many areas, it can help through cardiovascular, it can help with your bones, it can help with your many, many areas, your quality of life. Where weight is concerned, let me just paint the picture for you. If you ate one of these, I'm not going to eat one by the way, they're not mine. If you ate one of these, guess how long it would take to burn that off? Generally speaking. Guess how long it would take to burn one of these off? Okay. Guess? Probably about an hour. Moderate jogging. That's about 200 to 300 calories. Pretty cruel, isn't it? Maybe a gym session for one of these. And you might be thinking, what do you mean by one of those? 200 to 300 calories, I would say most people burn in a gym. I know you've got these sort of calorie meters on treadmills, and I think these calorie meters on treadmills probably tell you burn more than what you have, but even so, even at best, if you burn 500 calories, 2 of these. Okay? Now, 3,500 calories equates, generally speaking, to 1 pound. So if you ate 12 of these, you put a pound on. With the exception of you doing activity and being sedentary. As a general rule, and I won't go into too much detail because of time, as a general rule, we burn about 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day. That's our basic metabolic rate. We're doing nothing, just basic bodily functions. Okay, your body, physiologically, your heart beats, you breathe, your hair grows, all these things really, you burn calories at rest. If you sat down all day, if you're a woman, you probably burn about 2,000 calories, a man probably about 2,500, depending on your shape, size, within reason, okay? Now, if you add to that lifestyle, you walk up and down a few stairs and you go to the shop and you go to work and you might exercise, you probably burn another 500 calories on top of that. So it's really important that what we eat, calories in. And why it's really important is that you won't go to sleep tonight, I assure you, and wake up tomorrow and have 20 pounds more than what you're weighing out. It won't happen, and that never happens. It's over a gradual period of time. So if you decide, I'm going to eat one of these, and I'm probably making you hungry now, every day, on top of all your meals, and let's say 300 calories, just one of these, okay, in a week, you've literally put just over half a pound on. And it might not sound like much, but over half a year, and a year, then we start bumping up the weight. And one of the reasons I'm going to talk later on about having a food diary, because sometimes we think we eat really, really well, and it might be just the odd snack here or there. And that's the key. And we're going to talk about that more as we go along. So really, if you want more information on calories and energy consumption, I've got a DVD that talks more about it. I can send you a link, or you can email me. I can email you some more information. I don't want to get bogged down in that area. What I really want to focus on is give you tools you can use with your clients and for yourself to change your relationship with food, because food is the key. And at this point you might be saying, Jim, what do you know about being overweight? Well, I do know a lot about being overweight. One, I work with many clients over many, many years, but also I've had the problem myself. And I had the problem because I was an athlete. I trained really, really hard, 4 or 5 hours a day, every day, for many, many years. And I eat a lot. When you're eating 4 or 5 hours a day at high intensity training, then you're going to eat a lot. I retired for injury and I carried on eating the same amount. And it didn't take me long to bump up the weight. And it took me a situation where I got a job working as a conditioning coach, performance coach at a football club, and one of my primary roles was to help young players go on to be professional footballers. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was vastly overweight. I thought I could hardly inspire these young people being the way I am. They didn't know me as an athlete. It'd been a long time since I retired. And I thought, well, I'll work to myself. I was disgusted with myself and I took ownership. I thought enough is enough. And I was even doing seminars on weight loss and getting in great shape, thinking it's just not good enough. 4 or 5 stone overweight, not good enough. What did it for me, eating wise, I ate a high alkaline diet. When I say high alkaline, I ate a lot of greens, things like your cucumbers, okay, broccoli. That worked for me. It might not work for you. I always say there's a lot of diets. I say call them diets. A lot of different ways you can eat. You got your paleo, your alkaline, all these other things really. What worked for me is to eat a lot of greens and also juicing. I would juice. When I say juicing, you get the juicer and put your broccoli, cucumber, all sorts of stuff in there, a bit of fruit for the palate. Drink that in the morning, drink one in the afternoon, and just moderate me eating. In the evening, I'm eating meal. On the weekend, have whatever. That worked for me. I'm not suggesting you follow my eating plan. If you want more information on juicing, then you can email me. I'll send you whatever you want. The ball is in your court. About food, I always say the best way to work out what food's right for you is how do you feel after you've eaten it. I also ate food that was lower in GI, glycemic index. Now, in plain English, it's food that has more sustainable energy over a period of time. High GI foods tend to be high in sugar. They give you that spike and then you come back down again. That spike and come back down again. Yet, I'm not going to go into too much detail because of time. We haven't got a lot of time, but I have got information I can email if you want to know more about GI index. That said, I do eat fruit, albeit people say to me, well Jim, and there's this big thing at the moment about fruit. Is fruit good for you? Is the fruit bad for you? Well, let me just show you something. Okay, watermelon. Okay, watermelon. High in sugar, natural sugar. Yet in saying that, the nutritional values and the calories in a watermelon. Calories are lower than what they would be in a processed. I mean, you could argue that, you know, this is as much sugar as a few of these. Point taken. You could argue that, but the sugar in processed food have far more dead calories than the nutritional values you get from here. But sugar is sugar, whether it's from here or from refined sugar or processed sugar, and I would still moderate it. So I wouldn't go away and eat 10 of these a day. Yeah, maybe a slice a day, maybe 2 slices one day. I'm sure it won't do any damage at all, and the nutritional values and amino acids and electrolytes, all the things that you get from this will offset, you would think. So all I'm saying is fruit, you can moderate it. My suggestion is moderate your fruit, as long as you don't go too crazy, because sugar is sugar. But I don't want to go into that in too much detail. That's another story for another day. There's a DVD I've done that goes into more detail. Time is of the essence this evening, so we're going to crack on. If you want information on that, I'm more than happy to talk about that. Obesity is an issue in the world we live in today. Massive issue. We are going towards a crisis. Let it be known. We have a crisis on our hands. We don't do something about it now. We have got a crisis on our hands. Massive. And why do I say crisis? Because allegedly, if you read certain reports, obesity and nutrition-related problems has overtaken things like smoking in terms of impact financially it's having on the health service towards treating such issues. Now, America leads the way in obesity. They're far, well, I'd say above and beyond, but they are leading the way. Australia's not too far behind. The UK, Australia, other Western countries aren't a million miles away. And one of the reasons for that is our relationship to food. We're constantly bombarded from the minute we wake up till we go to bed, be it on TV, on social media, on radio. We're constantly bombarded by corporation, by businesses, telling us what to eat, how it's going to make us feel, what it's going to do for us. And we literally don't have the time to think. Now, remember one thing, that food is a business, okay? This is a business. That. Our relationship to food, we don't see it that way. You might have a relationship to food, socialise with your friends, talking. You might have grew up in a loving environment, and your mum made your food, and you sat at the dinner table with your friends and family, and you saw your relationship as a social thing and love thing. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, and yeah, it's great to socialise around food, yet in saying that that's a business. And how do they advertise that? Well, you don't need me to tell you how to advertise that. They have clever marketing strategies for you to build an association with that product, to stir certain feelings and emotions, so you buy more of it. So remember one thing, and take nothing else away from this evening, that food is a big business, big billion-pound industry. Now, added to being bombarded TV and the media and social media, all these things about food, and Christmas time, you get the Coca-Cola truck coming through, and all these things all the time, hitting you all the time. You drive on the motorway. Recently I was doing some seminars in Australia, and I'm driving on the freeway there. Every town had a Hungry Jack's, a Kentucky Fried, and a McDonald's. And it resembled when I was driving in the States a few months earlier. And I thought, this is like being in America. Every town has got the same thing, okay? Now, the UK, we're not too far behind, by the way. And same as Western Europe in general. We're sort of following what they do over there. And there's some positives to a certain extent, yet in saying that, it's a problem. Now, business will meet consumer demand. So the more you buy, the more they're going to open, the more they're going to sell. So become a more conscious eater. Make more conscious decisions about what you buy for yourself and for your family. And the reason I say that is because the mind is what drives us to eat. Our emotions drive most of our behaviour. And I'm going to talk about that very briefly shortly, our relationship to food. Now, think before you eat. Do you think before you eat? I ask you that question. Do you think? And the reason why you probably don't think too much about what you eat is because It's a habit, it's habitual. So we're almost in a trance where we go shopping, we go through the motions, you walk through the aisles, you throw food in there, you come home, you cook. Because the way the mind works, generally speaking, it simplifies things. It doesn't want to put too much energy into certain tasks. Now, we've got, generally speaking, two parts of the mind. I'm going to go into it quite briefly. Because of time, I won't go into too much detail. You can email me once again for information. The conscious mind, the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the part of the mind that controls your breathing. You tell your heart to beat, it does automatically. Your hair grows, your fingernails grows. All these physiological functions happen. Now, your subconscious mind also controls emotion and habitual behavior. The conscious mind, rational, logical. Let me give an example, plain English. When you first learn to drive a car, what's it like? First learn to drive a car, first gear, second gear, third gear, stall. Exactly. Now when you drive a car, you get in, you drive, you don't even realise where you've gone. When you drive to the destination, what's it like? Exactly. You're quite apprehensive, maybe a bit anxious. When you've driven there once, you get more familiar. 10 times more familiar. The more you drive there, the more easy it becomes. It becomes what we call a subconscious competence. Now, habits, good and bad, are in the unconscious mind. So literally speaking, your habitual behaviour around food is at a subconscious level, which is why these advertising campaigns hit us at a subconscious level. They gravitate us to go out and buy. Now, I'll give you an example of that. Let me show you this. If I said to you, okay, here you go, glass of water with 10 teaspoons of sugar, chemicals, would you buy it from me for £1.50? Would you buy it? Glass of water with chemicals and loads of sugar in there? No, you'd probably tell me where to go. Yeah, that's literally Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any other soft drink. And they sell like you wouldn't believe. So all I'm implying there is that how do they sell Coca-Cola or any product? They use various associations, music, uplifting music. They use celebrity endorsements. They use visuals. They use sounds and smells and all these associations. Next time you see that, you have that association. Okay, a bit like these taglines, a Mazda Day, rest and play, all these taglines, McDonald's, I'm loving it, emotive language, all that sort of stuff really. So Coca-Cola, and here that Pepsi, and also I remember once I was walking in London doing a seminar in London. I finished the seminar, I was walking through the streets of London after my seminar, and you know that big screen in London, they've got out there, and I'm looking at this big screen and I'm thinking, what is this ad all about? So it's got these guys who are taking their shirts off, they've got six packs and all this stuff, and these women are drooling. What is this all about? Goodness me. And next thing you know, Coca-Cola. So they use different ways to get into your head really. And then you start buying yourself, because really to drink Coke, whatever, it doesn't taste that great, it doesn't really even think about it. It doesn't taste anything special, really, when you think about it. Yet, as an associate, water would quench your thirst equally as good, if not better. You get a lemon, put it in water, you know, and high alkaline drink, great for you, fantastic, much better. Yet, in saying that, they're buying it. Now, I'm not saying to radically go out and change your eating habits overnight. I'm just saying, even bit by bit, it's worth thinking about. So, if you do nothing else, think before you eat. Okay, really important you think consciously when you go shopping. Make a conscious effort. I'm going to talk about that as we go along. In my experience of working with many people in the subject of getting in great shape for many, many years, there's a broad range of different reasons, drivers why people eat. I'm going to break it down to 3 areas this evening, for simplicity and time-wise. You've got what we call emotional eaters. Okay, emotional eaters eat boredom, anxiety, to compensate for loneliness, for love. Let me give you an example. Emotional eater. Years ago I was with a client. She had this compulsion to eat chocolate every night. High-powered businesswoman. Every night she'd come home and eat loads of chocolate. And when we got to the bottom of why she was eating that chocolate is that when she was very, very young, anytime she had any misfortune or fell off a bike or whatever, had a bad day at school, her mum would give her a chocolate. And she built that relationship around chocolate and love. So subconsciously, when we got that out of her, We did a process called regression, got rid of the emotion. It's another story for another day, and it cleared that up. So that's one area. The other area we can look at is our reward eaters. Ever been young, when you were very, very young, I'm sure you've been young, and you sat at a table and your mum and your dad said, finish your greens before you can have your ice cream. Ever had that before? I'm sure you have. So make sure you finish all your greens. The reward eater. There's someone starving in some corner of the world. You don't eat that. So it's almost like a guilt trip, isn't it? Go back to your emotions again. So now you feel guilty leaving any food. You're full. You can't even eat a dessert. Have you been in the restaurant before? You can't even finish your meal. But you just got to get that last slice of pizza in your mouth and that garlic bread. And then you've got to scoff that dessert, and then you've got to have another dessert. So the reward eater can be a problem as well. The subconscious eater. Have you been to the cinema and you're sort of munching away at popcorn, you've eaten 2 bags without realising it? That's another area as well, by the way. So there's 3 general areas we're going to focus on this evening in terms of what tools and techniques we can use to help in those areas. I'm not saying it's exhaustive, by the way. There are other issues and reasons and processes where eating is concerned, but let's just isolate those 3 areas. Now, what do I do and what strategy do I use with people to help them maintain their weight? Well, obviously it's really important that they eat well, as well as they can do. Yet to help them eat well, we can give them tools and techniques. Now I'm going to go through different tools techniques. I'm going to go through every technique in its entirety this evening. We just don't have time. I'll be here till midnight. It's roughly just after 8 in the UK. Yeah, I'm going to sort of give you an overview. We've got DVDs of each technique. You're going to watch them in their entirety and you can use them. I can send you information as well if you want to. It's entirely up to you, but I will sort of go into enough detail to give you the flesh to go away and work with. So we need some strategy. You might say, well, do I just do these strategies once? Or do you go to the gym once and that's it? Do you eat one good meal and that's it? I say, make it part of your life. Make mental training part of your life. I always say that. Make it part of your life. Just like you would go for a walk every day, just like you would eat a nutritious meal every day. Find time to do psychological techniques and strategies. We're going to be meditating for a day. You might be meditating. I say meditating, just lying back and thinking of nothing, being mindful. It could be visualizing. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out. The first thing I say to people I work with, and I want you to do it now, get your pen, get your paper, please, if you haven't already got it, is write a goal. I know it's a cliche, goals, and you probably don't need resolutions, but write a goal. You've got to have a goal. Your mind needs something to aim towards. Okay, it's like playing darts. If you don't aim anything at the dartboard, you've got nothing to hit. And when I say write a goal, write it in the positive tense. What I mean by positive tense, not very, very positive, I mean what you want. What weight do you want to be? What suit or dress size do you want to be? It's got to be very specific. Okay, so write your goal. Now, you're not accountable to do anything you don't want to do, by the way, but write down what your goal is. How many stone do you want to be? And roughly by when? What suit size, what dress size. That's where we begin, with a goal. We need a vision, okay? So you got me on that. The next process I would suggest that you do is your motivation, your motive. You've got to have a strong enough motivation, your why. I call it your why. And your why comprises of away from a negative and towards a positive. What I mean by that, away from negative, so you might want to get in great shape because of the health risks associated with being overweight, diabetes, whatever, and you might want to get in shape for the wedding dress, you might want to get in shape because you want to get a six-pack for the beach. So working on 2 ends, carrot and stick basically. Some prefer one or the other, and there's a spectrum of one or the other. I would say to write a whole list of things, and whatever works for you, keep that in front of you. So get your pen and paper. Why do you want to get in shape? Is it because you want to play sports with your kids? Is it because you've been told by the doctor you've got to lose a few stone, you're going to get ill? Is it because you've got a holiday coming up in June and get in shape for the summer? Is it because you got a wedding coming up? Is it because you just want to look and feel great? But write an exhaustive list, and you can carry on writing it after we finish the seminar this evening. Really important, you've got a strong enough why. You haven't got a why, then it's unlikely you're going to see it through. So you've got to have a why. There's got to be that desire to want to do it. You've got to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you won't get anywhere. There'll be a why. Why do you want to, okay? My motive when I got myself back in shape was this desire to work in the highest level of professional sport. And I felt that not being in shape wasn't going to work. I felt I wanted to lead, be a leader. And to be a leader, I wanted to be in shape myself. And it really drove me towards making those changes necessary to do what I did. Okay, so write down your why. It's really important that you've got a strong enough why. And you start moving your eating habits towards, you know, your processed foods to better eating habits. So you start going from, say, you know, milk for in general, and you might start doing almond milk. That's why I use almond milk in my coffee. I like a coffee every now and again. And we only, you know, I think sometimes we can go 2 out of the board. Some people, they eliminate a lot of stuff. I have some almond milk. It's quite good. Better than normal milk. If you want to know the pitfalls about milk, you can do your own research. You can email me. It's not great, obviously. So things like almond milk, like stuff like that, pretty good stuff as well. Lemon as well. When I get up in the morning, I have some lemon and hot water. Fantastic. Now, lemon, if you were to measure its alkaline levels before you put it in water and consume it, it's quite acidic. But when you consume it, certain foods, when you consume it, they produce high alkaline levels. So if you were to cut that and measure, it's pretty acidic. Now, if you were to put it in water and drink it, it has an alkalining effect in the body. Really good cleanser. So, you know, lemon's fantastic. And these are basic things you have. Maybe have 1 less cup of coffee a day and 1 of these a day. 1 less soft drink a day and 1 of these a day. It's entirely up to you, you know. But the key thing is to gradually change your eating habits. Now, the other thing as well I was going to suggest too, that you can use too, and we've got a DVD on this process as well, is what we call thought stopping. Okay, now it's a CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy technique, thought stopping, DVD, I've done it before. I'm not going to go through the entirety of it at the moment. What you do is to break yourself out of that trance. If you're in that trance state where you're driving, you come home from work and you're tired, and you see that big end sign, you think, I'm just going to pull over. As you pull over, for example, just get like a wristband or something and flick it and say, no, no. Okay, break yourself out of that trance. Break that trance. Really important. Okay, it's positive self-talk. So as you're about to pull up in that drive-through, just flick the wristband. No, enough. I want to be in great shape. And do an affirmation to yourself so you stay focused, and then drive away and hold out for 20 minutes and get home and make yourself something decent to eat. You know, get some of this, you know, steam a bit of broccoli and salmon and good food for you. And get yourself out of that state, which is really important. Another process I use as well is anchoring, NLP technique, neuro-linguistic programming, technical anchoring. I won't go into the process in its entirety. Yeah, we have a DVD on that as well. And those of you who know about NLP, you'll know anchoring. In some respects, it's pretty similar to thought stopping, where you do a kinesthetic action, but you can do a visual process, auditory as well. Yet in saying that, you apply an emotion on an intense level to the action. So if we're doing the kinesthetic action, for example, I would focus and think about the emotion I want to experience just before I'm eating a food. It might be an uplifting emotion that I want to feel that the food's going to give me, and then I'll apply it by visualizing and connect it to an anchor. And when I want to feel that emotion, then I might just use the anchor. That's just going through the technique very, very briefly. It's like the Pavlov dog experiment when they put food out, ring the bell, the dog salivates when they ring the bell and they take the food away. Like when you listen to a song and it takes you back to a time you were in Spain or wherever, really. It's building an association. So you can watch the DVD on anchoring as well. And you can also do a negative association to a product as well. So for example, you might have one of these and you might look at the negative associations. At the moment, what's your association with that? Probably, you know, cuddly, fluffy and warm, or stuff you see on TV. You can look at the negative association. You might want to put a picture of how, you know, you feel at the moment and how worse things are going to get if you carry on doing that. So you might want to do a negative association with the product, which is changing what we call to some modalities. But that's another process for another day, but this is generally, you can do that, do that with your clients as well, which is quite useful. So the thought stop, remember you can thought stop, and we've got a DVD on that as well, information on that. Snap yourself out of that state, and you can do the anchoring as well to put an emotion into the kinesthetic action, or visual cue as well, or auditory as well. It's entirely up to you, which is quite useful too. The association is key. The other thing is too, which is quite useful to do as well, is exercise, the things you do enjoy doing. Sometimes you can sort of go into a gym, you don't enjoy it. It's not always a good idea to do a lot of things you don't enjoy, because then the chemicals you produce in the brain aren't going to work for you. So you want to make it enjoyable. So exercise could be socialising, playing badminton with your friends, and tennis and all these sort of things. Really, it's entirely up to you. Going for a country walk, beautiful countryside, go for a walk on the beach, whatever really, it's entirely up to you. If you could put the chemicals produced in the brain when you exercise and go for a walk, gee, goodness me, it'd be incredible, wouldn't it really? And to think that, we talked about exercise earlier being beneficial for many things, for the mind too. So the chemicals you produce in your brain if you go for a walk are phenomenal. You go for a walk, and you've probably done it before, you might not burn a lot of calories, but by the end of it, I can assure you, you won't want to eat any rubbish because you're on a high. So ultimately, you'll probably come back and have a drink of water, eat some fruit or whatever really. So doing things like walking and exercise are quite useful, obviously, which is key. I do really recommend as well that you have what we call a thought diary. And the reason being is the thought diary is quite useful, because what you do is you want to think, what was I thinking at the point of when I ate that food? So, for example, you might have been at work, the boss might have put pressure on you to finish a deadline, and that might have prompted you to eat a lot of chocolates or whatever. And the thought diary is quite useful. So keep a thought diary with you just until you get to the point where you're on top of your eating habits. It's quite useful. Are you eating when you come home at night? If you're on your own? Are you eating excessively in the morning? Are you eating, are you eating throughout the afternoon? What emotions are driving that behaviour? So then you can work out what your triggers are and start isolating. It's quite useful to do a thought diary. What's also very useful too is a food diary. Now, I don't want to get too meticulous here. Obviously, we don't want to go too overboard. Yet in saying that, these little tools and techniques can really help you go a long way to sustaining it, because you can start isolating them, what's working, what's not working. But a food diary is quite useful, because a lot of people come and see me, tell me to eat well. And it's not until they go away and write down their food diary they realise that they are eating well probably 80% of the time, maybe 60-70% of the time I should say. Yet in saying that, it's that chocolate bar in the evening, it's that chocolate bar in the afternoon, it's that fish and chips, one too many during the week. So sometimes it's not until we write it down we realise we're eating more. You don't realise it sometimes. Sometimes you get into that pattern. The week goes really, really quick. You think, I ate really well this week. Why? You get on a scale, why have I not lost any weight? And then when you write it down, you realise, actually, you know what? I've not lost weight because I've been eating at different times, different things really. And that's when you can start doing replacement foods, so you can make changes, which is key. That's when you want to sort of like take, think, okay, I'm eating these, and I can eat some of these. Blueberries instead. Some people are probably saying, well, blueberries have got sugar on them. I told you before, the nutritional values of these far outweigh some of the sugar they have, as long as it's in moderation. So I can tell you now, half a pack of these is a lot better than half a pack of these ones here. Okay, not only less calories, the nutritional value is a lot higher, and you don't need me to tell you the many benefits that eating things like blueberries have. So replacement foods are quite useful. Replacing your soft drink with a lemon drink. If you drink 3 soft drinks a day, replace at least 1, okay? It's really useful to do it. And you can do it with a food diary to know where you are on the grand scheme of things. In certain situations for your skilled therapist, it's worth doing timeline and regression. Now, I'm not suggesting that if you're not a therapist to do that. It's a very controlled process. I use it to help clear up negative emotions. I'm not going to go into too much detail this evening, because I don't recommend doing the process unless you're a skilled therapist. If you are in a situation where you're struggling with your emotional eating, you might want to book yourself in to see a skilled therapist in your area, and they might take you through timeline and regression to help you clear up any negative emotions and associations you have with a certain type of food that can make a massive difference. So that's one thing that I've done and do with my clients. So generally speaking, the most prominent techniques I would use to be able to set goals, the motivation behind them, remind themselves the motivation behind why they're doing what they're doing, and have it to reinforce them. Visualizing as well, seeing yourself the way you want to be, and you can do this now. So close your eyes and see yourself being the way you want to be, and notice what it feels like see yourself on a TV screen the way you want to be. Notice what you're wearing, are you standing, you're just closing your eyes, and you imagine step into the screen, and imagine being the way you want to be. Think about the emotion linked to the way you want to be. It's quite a powerful process, visualizing. So if you can change nothing at all by doing this seminar, change the emotion, what it will feel like to be in the right way. I'll tell your clients what emotion they'll feel like to be in the right way, and also the attitude that you need to achieve it. Remind yourself the attitude you need. Sometimes you're going to have a bad day, you're not going to have every day everything's going to go well, yet in saying that, it's what you do consistently, that's the key. But visualising is quite useful. You build pathways in the brain. I have a DVD also on visualising, you can watch if you want to, and it teaches you more about that. Visualising what you eat as well, so you can visualise yourself, for example, making a juice in the morning and then getting up in the morning and making that juice. You're building a neural pathway in the brain. I mentioned before, it's a bit like driving to a new destination. Haven't driven before, you feel a bit nervous, apprehensive. You've done it before, you build a pathway. The more you do it, then you're on autopilot. It's a very powerful tool to visualise, build pathways in here. And that's what we learn as young people. We visualise, you watch people, for example, as a baby. When you're a baby, how do you learn to walk? Well, you see someone else walking and you model what they did. You saw someone else speak and you model what they did. That's the key to learning, and the more you visualise, the more hardwired you become to succeed. So visualise is quite a useful tool to do. And one way to visualise is what we call disassociate, like watching a TV screen, and one way to visualise is to step in the screen and do it in the here and now. And just do that every now and again, no matter how far away you are from your goal. If you're 10 stone more than what you want to be, then visualise yourself being the way you want to be. And the emotion, okay, feel and experience the emotion attached to being the way you want to be, and that will drive you towards getting there. So I emphasise the techniques that I use. They're not exhaustive, but these tend to be the ones that I generally use more than a lot of other ones. The goal setting, the why, the visualising, the anchoring, the thought stopping, the submodality work, the change work, reassociating different types of food, the regression in certain situations, the thought diaries and food diaries. So that might sound like a lot to take on board in a short space of time, yet in saying that, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're not looking for a quick fix here. We're not looking for a 2-week wonder. It's a gradual process. These yo-yo dieters are a complete waste of time because they lose it, they put it back on. Nothing else I lose is just water anyway. It's sustainable. So take it step by step. Every 1,000-mile journey starts with its first step, which is really important for you to take on board. So you learn these techniques, you've learned them before, there's DVDs out there for you to learn them. Take what's right for you. And you might be saying now, but Jim, do I just do it once and that's it? Well, once might have a big impact, like all things, but it's like a driving. When you learn to drive, do you go for one driving lesson, you go for 4 or 5, and then afterwards, if you don't drive for years, what happens? You start not understanding to drive that more, but you're not going to be as good a driver if you carry on doing it. The more you put in, the better it is. So after you've got your driving test, the whole idea is to keep driving. And I say the same thing goes in here. Now, keep working on it as and when necessary. That's the way I work with my clients. I'm not one of these therapists who, the one session, one day you're away. I'm not saying one session is going to have a big impact, but I'm just saying sometimes if you just rely on one session, just like one meal, it's going to be beneficial. Yet in saying that, the more you put in, the more you get out, which is key. I know we've covered a lot in a short space of time, but you're more than welcome to email me. I can send you links to some of the DVDs that cover some of these techniques. I can also send you information like an ebook which has more details on the techniques you can use as well, which is quite useful and powerful stuff too. Ultimately, in the end, the key and what's really important, become more of a mindful, conscious eater as well, and be really aware of what you eat and how you eat it. And I said before, for us to make a change, it's going to require all of us to make a change. The more we consume better foods, the more we go organic, the more we buy organic food, the cheap organic food is going to be, the more we buy fruits and vegetables, the more supply and demand. Food is a business. Now, I say if each of us makes a conscious choice after this seminar, if you make one conscious choice, the next time you are shopping and you've got your trolley and you're shopping away, if you make a conscious choice, it will have a systematic effect and impact. We can't underestimate the power of one person collectively. If we're all making these conscious choices, you're pushing the trolley and you're putting more organic food in there, more fruits, more vegetables, then supply and demand. These choices will shape the future, and the more we do that, the more we're going to have better food available, because at the moment we're getting there slowly but surely. We're educating young people. My passion is to help young people in particular. I think it's a travesty to think that young people, and they say that this will potentially be the first generation of young people that won't outlive their parents because of this obesity issue. You do your own research, and it's frightening to think that, is that the legacy we're going to leave our young people? It's horrible if that's the case. We've got to make a change. So if you make one conscious decision, and one only, next time you go shopping, break the supply chain. Because food is a business. It pains me to say it, and it works on supply and demand. And the more you buy better food, the more available they're going to make it. And not only that, the more you're putting money in the pockets of our farmers, fresh produce, and if you can shop your local organic stores, all the better, is what I say. That's my opinion anyway. If you have a shared belief, it's entirely up to you. If it's hard for you to do that, then fine, whatever, go wherever you've got to go. I shop where I can, in local farmers markets. Obviously can't get all my products there, so I shop at corporations as well. And in saying that, where you can do, it's great as well. But ultimately, the more we can do that, the better it is. And I'm not advocating overnight, and I'm not advocating the likes of McDonald's, KFCs all start shutting down. I'm sure they have their place to a certain extent. All I'm saying, it'd be nice to drive on a freeway or motorway and not see a McDonald's, Hungry Jack's and KFC everywhere. It'd be nice to see a place you can eat some fresh food as well. And it's education, it's training the palate. So if you've got kids yourselves, your own kids, then teach them young. Make them a juice, get them drinking juice very early on in life so they enjoy it. And if you're a teacher, please, get the young people involved in some of this stuff. Teach them what this stuff is, and teach them how to make juices too. I know it's not always within the curriculum, yet in saying that, where you can, I know you're under constraints, teachers as well, I've been a teacher myself, but where you can lead by example, it's quite useful. Whether you can bring a juice in yourself and drink it and make suggestions, and you do your part. And bit by bit we can make a massive change. And I think it's really important for us to make this change. It really is important, because if we're feeling good about ourselves, then we've been more confident, more motivated, we're more focused, more determined. It can only be a good thing. So I really want to thank you for joining in this evening. If you want any more information, then email me, Jimmy Petruzzi, at info at excel with NLP.com, info at excel with NLP.com, or you can message me on social media and I will get back to you. Any information, any techniques we've covered tonight, we want videos on the techniques, any info, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to give you all the results that you need to take away and make a massive impact. It's my passion, it's one of my missions to make a massive difference. One of my goals is to introduce some of this stuff in as many schools as I possibly can. I'm starting a mentoring scheme at a college next week, and I want to bring some of this stuff in.